dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yo, what's good, original crew? It's your boy DJ New Kid, your girl.
Sierra Nicole.
We're back on the channel with another Mr. Ballen reaction. This time it was requested by a lot of y'all. I know she's tired of this topic. We got top 3 random encounters with serial criminals. Go to. We don't say the one word because of, YouTube purposes. So with that being said, y'all asked for it. We're here to deliver it, not to talk. We're here to listen. Well, and to talk. That's what a reaction is. But with that being said, make sure y'all check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go, man. You want to first support, you gotta do it. Check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, as always, lock it in with a thumbs up.
Please do that.
Please do. Yeah, let's go.
Experts believe in the United States alone there are at least 2,000 active, uncaught serial killers just running wild. Which means if you live in America, you may have already had an interaction with a serial killer. You just didn't know it. But today, I'm going to share 3 progressively more disturbing cases of Americans that had an interaction with a serial killer, but came to find out later that it was a serial killer. But before we get into those stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all I do, and I upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, then please schedule the like button for a fight with Paul on the day before Thanksgiving in Quincy, Massachusetts. Also, please subscribe to my channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories.
So back to my question I always ask you. What defines a serial criminal? Because we've had that discussion before. We came to a resolution, but I want to relay that to the audience as well. Basically, a serial criminal is anybody who has taken the life of more than one person, right? Or is it more than one person on multiple occasions? Or does it just have to be on one occasion? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So, if that's the case, it's probably a lot that we could classify as a serial criminal, you know what I'm saying? And not just somebody who, you know what I'm saying, that, you know.
After spending 21 years in the U.S. Army, a man retires and moves to Central Florida with his wife and young son. Although his family had plenty of money because he had a pension coming in and his wife still worked full-time, he just got bored really quickly after moving to Central Florida and decided he would just take a job doing something just to stay occupied. And so he ended up taking a job at a highway gas station. One of the primary reasons he chose this particular job is because the owners of the gas station didn't care if his son came along to help him stock shelves and hang out behind the cash register. And so for years, that's just how it went. The man would work at the gas station and his son would tag along. Even after his son became a teenager and you'd think might be wanting to do other things, well, the town was so small, there was almost nothing to do. So his son still came along well into his teenage years. One night in 1990, his son, who was 15 years old at the time, was at the station and he was actually taking a break sitting outside on a picnic table. He was reading a magazine, drinking a Mountain Dew, and it's dark out, and he notices out of the corner of his eye that there is a woman walking off of the highway towards the gas station. It was a very quiet night at the time, so there's no cars getting gas, there's nobody there, and there's not really anybody even driving on the highway, and so that's why she really stood out to him. And he turns and he notices her and he thinks to himself, no one ever walks to our gas station. We're on a highway. Everybody drives here. So she must have broken down and she must be coming here to try to use our phone to call a tow truck or something like that. So the woman is walking across the lot, coming closer and closer to the gas station, and the boy at this point has turned his attention back to his magazine, but he would say later that he kept looking up and keeping an eye on her because there was something off about her. The woman ultimately walks right behind him and goes in the door into the gas station. doesn't acknowledge the boy, doesn't say hi to him, just walks straight inside, and she starts walking up and down the aisles of the gas station. Now, from where the boy was sitting, it's all glass, so he could clearly look in and see his father behind the counter, and he could see the head of this woman as she walked in and around all these aisles. And as soon as the woman was in the store, kind of pacing around the aisles, the boy put his magazine down and was just watching. And he noticed that she was not really shopping. She was just looking down for a few seconds, wouldn't pick anything up, so she wasn't buying anything. And she would look up at the counter where his father was, and she would just stare at him. And then she'd look back down at what she was doing, and she would go through all the aisles. And at some point, the woman just kind of abandons this phony, I'm pretending to shop routine, and just walks up to the counter. Now, nobody else is in the store. There's nobody else coming in. And so the boy could actually fairly clearly hear what she was saying to his father. And she told his father that she had broken down and she needed a ride, and could he drive her to Ocala, which was the next big town north of this gas station. And the boy would say that his father acted very strangely, because his father is normally incredibly pleasant with all the customers. He's very chatty even. Like, he talks to everybody who comes in the store. But as soon as this woman had gone in, his dad had seemed kind of dismissive and almost rude to this woman, and when she was talking to him, asking for a ride, he just said, no, I won't give you a ride. The woman is annoyed by how quickly she's been shot down, but instead of just taking no for an answer, she turns and looks at the boy who's sitting out on the bench, who's looking right at her, and she points at the boy, and she says, what about him? Is he your son? Can he give me a ride? The boy notices that his father, who's not within her eyesight, is looking at his son going, no. Like, whatever she wants from you, you're going to say no to it. And the boy's a little bit confused by this, because he's still trying to understand why his dad was so against helping this woman, because she clearly needs our help, or someone's help. But he just took his dad at face value, and when the woman's pointing at him, he knew, the boy, that if she came over and asked him, he would say no. But it wouldn't come to that, because the boy's father would say to the woman, no, my son's not going to give you a ride. You need to leave here immediately. Do not come back. Leave. We're not going to help you. She's furious. She's cussing him out. She storms out and slams the door. She starts cussing at the boy, and she walks off. The whole time she's turning around and flipping them off and screaming profanities at them, but she ultimately walks off. And the dad kind of followed her out and is standing next to his son as she walks off. And the boy asks his dad, like, what was her deal? Why did that happen? Why did you not want to help her? And the dad just said, I don't know. There was something off about her, and I don't know how to place it, but I did not want her around you. I knew I didn't want to give her a ride. I knew she had to go. A year later, the boy is in his room when he hears his dad in the other room yelling for him to come in here and look at the TV. So he runs into the TV room, and on the TV is the same woman from the gas station, better known as Eileen Wuornos. She was a serial killer who used to pick up her male victims at gas stations in Florida. It's unclear whether the boy or the boy's father were her next victims. But by the time she had shown up at that gas station, she'd already killed 4 people. And following that interaction with them at the gas station, she had gone on to kill 3 more people, including someone in Ocala, Florida, which was the town she had asked them to give her a ride to. Eileen had been caught, that's why she was on TV, and she was later sentenced to death.
Wow.
It's a high chance that they was going to possibly be one of her victims. It's a high possibility chance, because the one reason she possibly was kept that frustration from them and killed somebody in the other town, you know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And sometimes, bro, women got intuition, you know what I'm saying? But men got it too.
Anyone, yeah, but
it's some just be telling you, your spiders. Do you have spider senses sometimes? Will your spider sense be?
My intuition.
I'm saying, do you ever get that like spider sense tingling? Like,
I don't know what spider tingles feel like.
I'm saying like it's a radar that be going off like.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm just.
But yeah, like maybe his went out that night.
Yeah, like definitely.
And I wonder if did she even understand that he was as young as he was, or would she have even cared that he was young?
You know something? Because I never really looked into like the victims, like their ages and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know the age of her victims.
Yeah, I never looked into that. Did she even have was it just like anyone was up for grabs, or was it like she had a, you know what I'm saying? Because
I know looking into her, she said she mainly she targeted people who offers like sexual favors and stuff. It had something to do with like her prostitution. Her case is very weird.
Yeah.
She was a very weird individual, and I think she was so like.
Or did she used to tell herself these people wanted these things, or they tried to make these advances at her? Or did people actually? I don't know.
I think somebody in her situation really needed mental help.
Yeah.
Because she was just too strange.
Yeah.
Remember, we even heard like her final stuff and saw her final. She said she'll be back.
Yeah, she was. Well, let me be quiet, honey, because
she said that. Did you remember she put the little thing in her? Bro, that joint is crazy. She crazy.
In the late 1970s, a medical student going to school in Chicago had just gotten out of class and decided he didn't want to pay for a taxi, so he decided he would hitchhike his way home. Now, this was something he routinely did, and at the time was socially acceptable. So he goes down to the road and he puts his thumb out, and eventually a car pulls up, and he would describe the man that is pulling up as looking normal and even friendly and lighthearted. It's a middle-aged guy, and he tells the student, hey, come on in, hop inside, I'll give you a ride. The student did not feel threatened by this guy and felt like overall this was safe, and so he hops in the passenger seat. He tells this man where he wants to go. He says, okay, and they start driving off. So as they're driving, it's silent in the car. They're not making chit-chat. They're just driving along. And the student notices that the man misses the turn to go where he needs to go. And so the student turns to the man and says, hey, you missed the turn. Do you mind turning around and going back this way? Or, if you want, you can just drop me off here and I'm happy to walk. We're not that far away. The man, who had seemed really nice and lighthearted, suddenly had this really intense demeanor come over him. And he turns and looks at the student and goes, oh no, you're coming with me. The student is frozen in fear. He doesn't know what to do, but he knows immediately that this is not an idle threat. I don't know who he is, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be bad for me. I have to get out. And so as soon as the car began to slow down even a little bit, they're still driving, they're not stopped. The student unlocks the door, opens the car, and jumps out of the moving car and smashes into the ground, rolls against the side of the curb, but is ultimately unhurt. He's banged up from jumping out of a moving car, but he was able to stand up and run back to his house. He didn't call the police because he really didn't know what to tell them, because he didn't have a great description of the guy, he didn't have his license plate, and the guy didn't do anything totally aggressive. It was more of a threat, but an ambiguous threat at best. It wasn't really clear what he wanted to do with him. It definitely did not seem good, but it just wasn't enough for him to call the police. And so the student just feels lucky that he got out of there and moves on with his life. A couple of years go by. The student at this point has basically forgotten about this encounter with the stranger. And he's sitting in a cafe, he's drinking some coffee, and there's a TV on behind him. He wasn't paying attention to it, but the reporter on the TV said something that immediately piqued his interest. The reporter was talking about a guy that was currently on death row that apparently had removed all of the inside car door handles inside of his car after his first would-be victim, a college student, had apparently escaped by opening a car door while he was moving. The student runs over to the TV and sees on the screen there is an image of the guy they're talking about, this guy on death row, and it's the same guy who gave him a ride 2 years earlier. His name was John Wayne Gacy, aka the Killer Clown. He had killed over 30 men and boys in Chicago, and then after killing them in his clown room, he would stuff them into a secret crawl space in his basement. And although we can't be certain, it seems extremely likely that this med student was supposed to be the first victim of John Wayne Gacy, but he leapt out of the car, forcing John Wayne Gacy to change his strategy and make sure the next person was not able to do that.
I just got those little spider senses. Felt like a little staticky, but it was for something different, child. That just gave me chills, though.
That is so crazy.
That is, yeah.
All because you was scared. He changed his whole MO. He said, yeah, that ain't gonna never happen again.
Yeah, but it wasn't even that he initially had, because that was gonna be his first. So this was like a, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
I never.
He does look normal. He blended in with society. Like, think about it. Everything we've seen, he literally blended in with society.
And like I always say, what is normal? You know what I'm saying? I always ask that question because I'm like, what is normal? Because
typically what people think about creepy looking people, they all get this image of certain people. But those people, not a lot of times, Like, you know the creepy looking dude in the van. You stay away
a lot
from
of
him.
times we hear things, and it be the people like this that look normal or that blend in, or that you will never, or never think or guess or think that they could ever do anything like that, or respectable in their city, well, not city, their town, or whatever the case may be.
Because I'll say this. What's her name? Aileen?
Yeah.
Well, however you pronounce the crazy woman name. She looks crazy. She looked the part of what we think crazy, unnormal people look like. She acted unnormal. But John looked like the average neighborhood citizen.
Okay. I mean, physically, we have...
Physically, and we don't even, because we don't know how his conversation was amongst other people. Yeah. His conversation might
could have been
just
weird, like a little off.
No, they could have been normal.
Okay, or it could have been normal.
Because everything I've seen about him, I wish we never finished the tape. We still ain't finished the Dahmer tapes. Everything we've seen about him, he perceived to be a normal human being amongst society. A lot of people knew him. Yeah. A lot of people associated with him. And he was like, a lot of people like personally had conversation with him, invited him over. He didn't stand out like a sore thumb. He was blended with the community.
I do remember people saying that. And then he had a family. At one point. Okay. But regardless of the fact, like, I guess you would never think somebody like him, like I always say, he was an entertainer for, like, kids' birthday parties or things of that nature, or whatever the case. So you would never, like, I don't know, I guess people never think, like, oh, he's out here,
But like the saying goes, you never know a killer till they kill someone.
Exactly.
So everybody looks like a normal human being till they... do something you never expected them to do, and now they are. And that's
why I be asking, like, what is actually normal? Like, because anybody can be, you know what I'm saying?
The devil comes in disguise. So, hey, you never know.
In the 1970s, a young woman and young man were on their very first date together, and it wasn't going very well. It wasn't going badly, it was just really, really awkward. They just were not meshing at all. And so as they're getting ready to leave and retire for the night, the guy is thinking to himself, I have nothing to lose here. We're probably not going to go on a second date. And he says to the woman, hey, do you want to not go home right now and actually come on a hike with me? And he goes, I know this sounds like a terrible idea, but hear me out. I go mountain climbing in this area called Provo Canyon. It's not that far from here. There are these beautiful trails that lead up the side of the canyon to these amazing scenic overlooks. And tonight it's a new moon, so there's great visibility. And I just think that you might enjoy it. And so at first, the woman is obviously a little bit hesitant. But when he says, look, I go hiking there at night all the time. I love it out there. And I promise if there's any weirdness, if you don't like being there, we'll just turn around and leave. It's totally safe. And so after a little bit of coaxing, she finally says, okay, you know what? That sounds fun. Let's go do it. And so their date that had been really awkward suddenly became really exciting. And the two of them were kind of like thrilled, like, wow, look at us making our way up for a nighttime hike through Provo Canyon. And so they arrive at the mouth of this canyon, and they're both obviously excited. And they hop out and they start walking up this trail that brings them into a heavily forested section of the canyon. Now, to this point, the guy felt like this was a real...
Is he growling?
No, he's stretching.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Forested section of the canyon. Now, to this point, the guy felt like this was a really great idea. He really had gone hiking here a bunch, and he really did know the area well. But as the trail brought them into the forested area, the guy remembers feeling this overwhelming sense of dread. He didn't know why, it was just like an overwhelming sense of anxiety that something bad was going to happen to them. But he had worked so hard to convince his date to come with him, and had convinced her it was safe, that he's not about to let on to her that there was anything wrong with what they were doing. And so he put on, his strong face and just kind of suppressed it and just kept on walking and, holding her hand tight, and they just continued their walk. But his sense of dread would just build and build to the point where he was really on edge. And what he didn't know, but would find out later, is that his date, the woman, she also had this horrible sense of dread as soon as they went into the forest. But she didn't want to tell him because she didn't want to seem like a party pooper, because he seemed really excited about it. At some point, as they're walking down this path, the man steps on something that felt soft. He didn't know what it was, but it caused him to freeze immediately, and he's holding her hand. He kind of jerks her to get her to stop, and before he can even look down and see what he's standing on, he hears rustling coming from the bushes just off the trail. She hears it too, and both of them, without saying a word to each other, because again, you got to remember, they're both really stressed. They haven't let on to the other how stressed they are, but they're both basically ready to leave. And so the two of them turn around and they hightail it out of there. He has no idea what he stepped on. They don't know what they heard in the bushes, but they don't care. The anxiety was so high, they just wanted to leave. Years later, that man and woman who had this very strange date would actually be married. And they'd be sitting down watching TV together, and they're flipping through the channels, and they land on an interview with a death row inmate. And the interviewer is asking the inmate, was there ever a time that you were almost caught red-handed? And the guy being interviewed says, yes, one time. I was in the forest up in Provo Canyon one night, and a young couple came walking up the trail. I didn't see them, so I only had a chance to jump into the bushes right next to the trail, and the guy actually stepped on the body of a girl I had just killed. But for some reason, he didn't look down and see what he was standing on, and the two of them didn't notice me just a few feet away from them. They just turned around and walked away. Turns out that young couple had run into one of the worst serial killers of all time, Ted Bundy. Before Bundy was executed, he confessed to over 30 murders. But many people believe the true number of victims is much, much, much higher. So that's going to do it, guys. Let me know what you thought of these 3 stories in the comments section. And let me know how you would respond if it turned out you had actually interacted with a serial killer. Not only will I respond to all the early commenters, I will also pin the best comment at the top of the comment section. If you enjoyed today's story...
Wow.
Wow.
That is
crazy.
That is insane. Most definitely.
That last one was probably the one that got me to...
All of them.
Nah, all of them.
Especially
the John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy.
All of them.
But that Ted Bundy one, you literally stepped on her body.
Yeah.
And you didn't even look. It just was in you to, like, we gotta go.
Yeah, because, like, the first one, it's more so if his daddy didn't have, like, that, that feeling like something not right about you.
I still wouldn't give it no rider.
Yeah, I get that. Well, definitely I wouldn't have, because I'm not about to leave the store. Like, in that case, and I'm definitely not about to let my son go with no stranger.
My son 15, he can't drive.
No, we're not doing that. But, yeah, so that's crazy. And then the second one, most definitely, because I'm, like, literally, like, I was about to be your victim. You know what I'm saying?
They want to get you all started.
Yeah. No, baby.
And then this one,
no.
I don't think necessarily they would have became one of his victims, because I think Ted was coward, because he never attacked men or anything like that, because a lot of stuff he did was just kind of came off like cowardly at the same time, but
it could have been a thing too. Like, I guess it could have just been a thing with him feeling like he said he was gonna get caught red-handed. If he would have looked down, seen it, they would have took off and they could have alerted authorities or something like that, or whatever the case. But that's
he
crazy.
had possibly fled and got away, because it's the 70s. They ain't got cell phones like that, so you can't. And he could have had time enough to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, possibly, but
these were wild.
Yeah.
I wonder, do he got a part 2 like this?
I know, right?
Cause this was good, and I know it got to be other stories like this. You know, like, cause have you ever came in encounter with possibly somebody?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of, but as people who have killed, I have, and like some, I was like. After finding out some people I know have killed people, I'm like, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But some, I'm like, nah. Matter of fact, one of them, I remember this, like, it was crazy because we was in high school, right? And it was this guy, like, he done came over to my mom's crib a couple times. Like I told you, a lot of people used to come over to the house and play basketball. And especially in the backyard, because we had the speakers set up and stuff, so everybody used to want to come hoop. So he used to come over a couple times and stuff. You know, it's whatever. Then he ended up moving to Memphis. What happened was I want to say he killed either 1 or 2 people. I can't remember, but I don't know the motive behind it. I want to say some gang initiation stuff, but I'm not 100% sure. But he ended up running, fleeing, and coming back, and they were searching everywhere for him. And then one time, my mom ended up seeing him in prison.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, you such and such, Mom?" My mom was like, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, yeah, I've been over your house a couple times and stuff. Yeah, like, I came over." My mom was like, "He been over here?" I was like, "Yeah, like, he came over a couple times. We used to hoop and stuff." Mm-hmm. She was like, I was like, "Yeah." When I was surprised when they said he had killed somebody and fled. Like, I never thought that. And he was like 17 when he did it. So.
And I take my back. You asked me if I've ever been around.
Do you know anybody that turned out to be a serial killer?
Okay, no. Okay.
But a killer, I'm sure.
Yeah. But not that I know of a serial killer. No. I don't think so.
And then
I can't think right now, but no, I haven't.
And then a couple dudes I used to beef with and or had like altercations with this growing up. They're now in jail for murder. Mm-hmm. So it's a couple guys. My mom like, I'm glad you turned out the way you turned out and went down a different path because like right after we all graduated high school, all of them started really like beefing with more and more with each other. And then some unfortunately has passed and some are now in jail for murder. And my mom remember all these dudes. She was like, "Yeah, I remember you having an issue with him and you having an issue with him growing up. And I'm glad you like got away when you did because you never know what could have transpired.
Could have went this way or that way, and either way, it's not good. Yeah.
Because it's a lot though. That's
most definitely.
And to be real, could I've possibly seen these people if they had got away with that turning into a serial criminal? Yeah,
possibly. Yeah.
Because you get away. I feel like if you get away with one, and you know you can get away, I feel like you'll do it again.
Yeah, that's what many people. So yeah.
So yeah, that and that's the point. Like, it's possibly a lot of, but not what we will automatically think of. The death, what we normally see as a serial criminal or a serial killer. What we actually see in the stories that we're normalized ourselves to, but as other types of serial criminals, we know. Yeah. But we just don't identify them as that, but that's what they are. Let us know what y'all thoughts are and opinions are in the comment section down below. I'm glad each of these situations could have turned way worse than what they did.
Yeah.
Especially the first two. The first two could have actually been victims.
Most definitely. The first two, yeah. And then you never know, like, with the third one, what would have happened, what you have, you know what I'm saying?
Or out of panic, would you have did
anything to them, or was able to grab at least one of them, or some, just whatever the case may be. You just never know.
I do think Ted's number higher. I think every last one of them number is higher than what they say.
That's always weird to me that they're like, confess to a certain amount. I'm like, regardless of the fact, it's still. I
think some forget.
You think that's what it is?
I think some because how can you keep up with every last one?
I mean,
like, are you marking them down? Like, are you
some
really
people
counting?
are very meticulous like that, and they like.
That's weird.
I don't know, but
but I do feel
I don't
like
have
every
that
last
mind to like be. You know what I'm saying?
It's nasty. But again, spam us up. Let us know y'all thoughts and opinions, man, in the comment section down below. But as always, y'all know how it go. I do go with the name DJ the Kid. This is
Sierra the host.
We are. We are.
Go and get it. Ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar.